You know what? I got a quick question for somebody out there, for everybody out there, and I wonder is anybody going to be able to give me an answer. But we know that affirmative action was attacked as well as DEI, but primarily because the Asian community complained that it made it harder for them on the college applications. That's a fact. We also know that these same groups, all POC groups, have openly said this, whether they're Africans or Caribbeans, Byron Donaldson, or the Hispanic community, AOC, or many of the Asian communities. But everyone says that no, black Americans are not entitled to the 40 acres and a mule that was outlined in the Emancipation Proclamation. However, they don't complain about stuff like this. So when they got their reparations, it wasn't a handout, but the handout that was signed in the treaty that granted us our freedom, that's now been framed as a handout. Yeah, I just want everybody to know. We see you. And now the Democrats are openly talking about when they get back in power, they're giving reparations to the illegals that just crossed the border. But we're the birthright citizens that can't be deported. Make that make sense. Also, let's keep in mind the reparations that were outlined and that are still being questioned, that the Democrats have to keep having these queries and surveys and committees to study for, was for the 400 years of free labor that built the infrastructure of this country, that people like Mondami and Shabuzi say their ancestors built this country when they weren't allowed to immigrate here until the 20th century. In fact, let's look at some stats on that. All right, so according to the United States Census, in 1960, there were exactly 35,355 African immigrants in the United States of America. Now, the diaspora is up to around 2 million now. But understand, in 1960, there were 35,000 African immigrants. This is before the Civil Rights era. That means most of those people were either students, diplomats, actual business people, things of that nature, because they were not allowed to immigrate here until after we fought for it, right? Okay, let's go. All right, now I want to touch on something else, because, you know, a lot of people talk about who's who and who belongs where. A quick Google search will tell you the average white American can trace their family beginnings in America how many generations? The average white American can trace at least one branch of their family in the United States back. Just one. At least one back. 3 to 5 generations. Roughly 75 to 125 years. Okay? All right. That's from 17 references. All right. Now, the average black American, the average black American can trace their family beginning in America back how many generations? The average black American can genetically, understand that. There was the difference. You didn't see that word in the first query. But in this one, it says, the average black American can genetically trace their family lineages back 10 to 13 generations. However, most families hit a brick wall at 5 to 6. And that's only because we were reclassified because of people like Walter Plecker. And we were reclassified to Negro from something else. The same way like a lot of these people that were from Croatia or China or Serbia got classified as Indians. Yeah, this is a fact that nobody wants to talk about. But see, if you ask Google the questions the right way, it'll tell you the answers. So 3 to 4 generations versus 10 to 13. Pay attention. All right. So let's see. Now, according to academia, the average Native American can trace family roots in America back between 500 and 700 generations, spanning at least 15,000 years. They said trace back. But how exactly do you trace back? Because they don't say anything about genetics, and there isn't anything on paper. However, according to the paper trail, if you want to go back, I would just say the average person with partial native ancestry or indigenous around to 6 to 10 generations back. 6 to... But Black Americans go back. Yeah. So now that I've broken it down with simple Google query searches that can't be denied, I want everybody to sit back and understand what they're saying when they say things like, these niggas is asking for a handout for reparations. The Japanese got reparations. The Ashkenazis got reparations from America. For what? According to what they taught us in history school, I don't even know why. Because we went over there and liberated their ass. Ain't that what they tell us? We freed y'all. Well, we freed them. But I'll tell you what, one thing I do see that can't be denied, right? When you see it says that they can trace back 500 generations or 15,000 years. But when it comes to what's written on paper and contracts and covenants that are recognized by all sovereign governments, on paper, ain't nobody been here longer than our black asses. Anybody want to answer that question? Because now we got to start having a completely different conversation when on paper we can trace our roots and our genealogy back here longer than who they claim the natives are. But if you pay attention, even in government, there's an Indigenous Day and then Native American Week. And Indigenous and Native, though similar, are not completely synonymous. Because see, anybody that was born at a location is native born to that location. So you can be of a Asian phenotype, but be born in Jamaica. So you are a native Jamaican, but that don't make you indigenous to Jamaica. So yeah, they very well could be native because they have Eurasian DNA, the Bering Strait. But again, I'm just going by paper. So ask Walter Plecker how crazy he got y'all looking when you say go back to Africa. Because ain't none of y'all telling us this shit. Ain't none of y'all who mad that we boycotting because Cyrus got shot in the back and you can't keep your bitches in check been here longer than us. Stop.